Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name is Richard Meade. I'm the VP of Product Development at Link Systems International, and I'm joined by Dr. Fernandez at Ottawa University as well, and Suzan Rhoades, who's an instructional designer at NAU and ASU, but it looks like Suzan's having a little bit of difficulty getting into the Zoom. So we have 30 minutes, or just about 30 minutes now, and we have, there's a chat area in Pathable that you can use to ask questions if you like. And I think Christina was telling me that in some of the past sessions, folks were using the chat in Zoom as well. So Christina, if you're gonna be hanging out for this session, can you kind of monitor that for me? And feel free to just interrupt us at any point in time if someone has questions. We'll probably have a few minutes at the end if additional people have questions as well. We'll start off by some introductions, and we're going to talk about some of the online math learning goals at Ottawa University, how the technology that they have to set up their courses. So I really wanted Suzan here because she set those up, how the technology is used. Talk a little bit about the current courses that Dr. Fernandez is teaching. Talk about some of the challenges that they've had as well, not just during the pandemic period, but because their Ottawa, you'll see, is offers like fully online programs as well, courses and programs. We'll talk a little bit about some of the survey results that we gathered, and Ottawa University gathered some survey results while they were doing a pilot with our product called Sofia. And then we'll just talk, well, there's a slide about just how they helped save students money. And I know that's a pretty hot topic across all schools around the nation, just trying to bring the cost down for students. So I don't know if Suzan is here yet. I don't think so. So we'll just start. Hi, Dr. Fernandez, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Fernandez. I've been in the education field for over 15 years. So I have experience in the K through 12 setting. That's where I started. And then I went into the university level, and I've done it all. I've taught as an adjunct. I've been a professor, been a department chair, and I'm a lead administrator in the university setting. And I've experience in both on-ground and online experience, and the latter last decade or so, I have lots of experience in teaching online math courses, anywhere from the basics all the way up to calculus.
Awesome, thank you. And as I said before, I'm the VP of Product Development at LSI. Been with the company for going on 17 years. The company's 20 years old. Part of my responsibilities is working with our internal team as well as with the schools across the nation to just manage our Sofia math homework platform. And that's what we were working with Dr. Fernandez and Suzan on past couple of years, and just making sure that we're providing our team with the accurate feedback on, students' perceptions and feedback on the product, instructors and teachers. If anybody has any ideas, we like to bring those back and continue to iterate the product as well. And then you can read additional stuff about me there. But I'm based in Tampa, Florida. So we have two offices. There's one in Arizona, in Tempe, and then we have another office. Our main headquarters is in Tampa, Florida. You want to talk a little bit about Ottawa University? I know there's some stats I found online here. Oh, there's Suzan. Hey. Or maybe Suzan, do you want to introduce yourself? We'll go back to your slide.
Yeah. So sorry for my tardiness today. So I'll do a really brief introduction. I've been in education for 15 years. I've been in instructional design for about 5 of those years. And I've worked with Sofia for about a year. And I'm really excited to be part of this presentation today because all of my years with education have been with math education. And so I've seen the need for a platform like Sofia, and I'm really excited to be able to bring it into fruition, at least with students that I was working with at Ottawa University. If we want to switch back to the Ottawa slide, unfortunately, I'm no longer with Ottawa University. I've recently made a transition to Arizona State University, but I spent 4 years with Ottawa. Ottawa is a smaller faith-based university out of Ottawa, Kansas, but has multiple physical campuses across the U.S. and also services adults online. And most of the students that Ottawa services is actually online. The undergrad is not-for-profit. And then there's also the graduate, and you can see the approximate enrollment there for the most recent year, the 2020-2021 school year. We won't have the total enrollments for this school year yet. And then there's the enrollments for the students that are completely online.
Are a lot of the students in the traditional classes also like kind of have online classes as well?
Yes, so
okay.
Even students that are on ground, what we call on-ground students or traditional students, will also take online classes as part of their curriculum and part of their program. So, so whether a student is 100% online or mostly not online, they still might take some online classes, so it does get a little gray.
Okay, great. Thanks for giving us that background and history of Ottawa. I thought, it might help people to understand a little bit about the school and the students that you serve. And we were talking about, some of the goals that you all had with, especially with teaching students online and in math. And do you want to talk, I don't know, either one of you want to talk a little bit about, some of those goals? I know we were talking about, academic support, especially in like fully online classes. It can be difficult. And I think everybody's realized that during the pandemic, even if they were traditionally on campus, that providing academic support for students when they're all learning remotely was pretty eye-opening, I think, to say the least, for a lot of folks. And I think, there's people that I talked to, on Friday, they got a message that said, we need to put our our tutoring center online by Monday. Not everyone had that short of a time frame, but there were some folks that did. And so they really, really scrambled. And I know you guys have had a lot of online learning experience already, but do you want to talk a little bit about some of this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I teach at the online campus, and I've been there several years, and I teach the intermediate algebra and the pre-calc course. So just to give you a little bit of background, the way these courses were set up before we made the move to Sofia, which happened to be during the pandemic time, was that there was different ebooks or PDFs for each of the lessons, kind of like the little mini books for that specific chapter, and the students were doing book work. So they're going in the book, looking up the questions that are assigned in there, writing out their work, and then submitting that to the instructor. And for those that are math teachers, it's pretty cumbersome to read all of the writing and to check all the steps and whatnot. So we are definitely looking for different options that we can kind of bring math more to life and kind of offer some support for the students. Some of the students that are on campus may have that in-person tutoring, but with the pandemic and everyone being home, we also need that online option, which is available via NetTutor when we have this program where a student can go ahead and click on it. And as you'll see in the next slide, they can just click on it right from that problem, so they have that immediate help. Within the course, we use Blackboard. We also have an Ask My Instructor. So if the instructor, if they need to get some questions answered, they can go to that form and or email, which is most common for online students. We also wanted to make sure these students were engaged. You know, math or even pre-calc can be pretty daunting for an online student. And then that increases with everything that's been going on this past year. So from my anecdotal stories, students who made that switch to Sofia and we started using that, I saw an increase in motivation. So once they kind of got off to the right foot in the first couple lessons and they got good grades, they started to continue. And we kind of know in math, we see that drop off. So the nice thing was to see them persist throughout the course and then ultimately retain, and their grades were higher when, you know, looking at the prior versions where they were just looking, using the book and almost teaching themselves, so to speak. The nice thing is there's lots of learning aids and help for students. So you'll see the different options that are available in Sofia. So as a student's looking at a problem, they have options to get that help or support or a hint to kind of move them along. And we wanted to make sure we gave them the tools to be successful. So not only do they have Sofia, but also within the different units, they have videos and documents and notes that they can read through and kind of get some background and get familiar with it before they jump into Sofia. The great thing about this program is that it lowers the cost for students. So in the traditional courses where they need to buy a $200 math book or the edition change and they have to update it from one semester to the next, the nice thing is they just can use this program and it's a lot cheaper than going to buy a hardcover book. And if you want, you can go to the next slide and we can take a look at some of those options. So for example, like this was a problem that would pop up. A student needs help, they have a hint option or a show me, which of course a book cannot offer. And that kind of can get them on the right track. They can toggle in between the questions if they need to skip it and come back. The your turn button and also live tutor. So if they just go in and they're completely lost, they can click on the live tutor option or an Ask My Instructor option, which would send an email to the instructor that says the student has a question on this problem and they can go ahead and get some help directly from their instructor.
And you can see the problem that they have an issue with, right? Like the exact iteration of the problem, because the platform is like algorithmic by nature. So no two students really get the same variables when they're working through these assignments. So it's good that you can see the question that the student was working on too. And just another thing I want to point out, this is on the screen right now, is the show me. So it's showing the student how to do it. And then this question button here is whited out because once you've seen how to do the problem, you have to try another question. And because it's algorithmic, they'll get a completely different problem. It's the same level, difficulty level and type of problem, but with different, different variables in it. So they can't just see the answer and then copy and paste it. And I don't know if you use the show your work feature at all, Heidi, but we have that too. And I think that's on a later slide. And then we were also talking about some of the challenges with online math, and you want to, I'm sure everyone sees these and they're like, yep, we have the same issues. But I think it's always, when you're using technology, whether it's hardware, devices, laptops, iPads, phones, you have to have a solid machine, but you also have to have like access to reliable internet. I know some schools where students are could be in rural areas where it's kind of spotty, just don't have access to great fast internet, and you have taking an online course where they really need to have that. That can be a pretty big challenge. And I know I've heard from a lot of schools, especially 2-year community colleges where they may have a higher population of adult learners, just the doubt in being able to use the technology, navigate the learning management system. There's a little bit of a hurdle there to kind of get them over that. Have you guys experienced that as well at Ottawa?
Yes, and I'll go ahead. Reese had asked about what other activities, and then as you said, discussion. So there's a discussion board each week that goes along with the topics and the concepts that the students participate in and reply to their peers. When we did our first pilot course, we kind of did a soft transition. So we did every other week with Sofia, and then we had the written assignments to kind of alternate to see how students would take to it and how it would go. And now we decided, since it went so well, it's better to have it in all of the weeks. And there's also a final exam. So you can write the final exams and or tests or quizzes, whatever it is you would like in the program. So that can all be housed in there. The nice thing is about this is the students can use this on all the devices, like Rich was saying. So, you know, when we have the book in a PDF and then the student had to like go read one section and then go to another section for their homework and write it down, that becomes a little bit cumbersome, where now they can pull it up on their tablet, on their laptop, and just start working, save it, and come back at another time. So they're not constantly toggling back and forth between a lot of different pages and links. Math anxiety, as you guys know, is super high for students, especially online, adult learners that are coming back. The nice thing about this is when students started, I didn't get a lot of that anxiety that you normally get when you first started. Like, oh, I have to read 200 pages in a textbook and do math, or how do I do this? It was actually very intuitive, and it was a nice, easy transition where students took to it. And like I said, once they started getting some success, they went back in, and we pieced it to where there's different concepts within a week. So we're not throwing 50 questions at them at one time. We break it up into 10 or 12 questions per topic. So that way they can go in and do that on a Monday and come back on a Wednesday and finish the next one. So we kind of did it in bite sizes to also help them kind of reach those goals for the week.
So yeah, so how does Sofia help? I think you touched on a few of those, alleviating the math anxiety, having the ability to see incremental achievements, right, while they're working through the platform, like, yeah, I got it right. And it just really it was all about keeping students going, right, and not giving up, because they don't always have someone that they can turn to in their household. Like I said, if they're adult learners or commuter students that are working full time, I mean, the only time they get a chance to work on their homework could be really late at night or early in the morning when, you know, the instructors aren't around, the campus tutoring center isn't open yet, or is already closed. It could be on the weekends. So what we really wanted to do is just keep the students going, give them options and ways to kind of spark their memory, you know, with a hint of how to get that problem going, and then literally like have a live tutor on the other line for a lifeline to help them work through that, and then ultimately continue through the assignment. We all know, right, with math, you don't just sit in class, do a problem on the board, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, sometimes maybe you can, but it takes practice, right? That's why there's homework assignments in math. You have to keep doing it over and over for it to stick. And that's really the idea with Sofia as well. And it's not just like, you know, here's a question, pick A, B, C, D, you know, it's more than just multiple choice. I think you've experienced that as well with graphing type questions, fill in the blanks. You can drag and drop and match things. I mean, it's a very substantial questions and answer types that are available in it. Instant feedback, you know, it's gonna tell you if you got it correct or incorrect. And, you know, we'll talk about it later, and we only have a few minutes left anyway, but just the cost, I think, is probably one of the most attractive things. There's free platforms out there, there's really expensive ones, and then there's low cost, and that's kind of where Sofia fits. Talked about the various answer types, but show your work is also another option that the instructor can enable. so that the students, as they're working through and answering the questions, if they even wanted to have a pen and paper next to them and use it as scratch paper to show how they got to the answer, and then snap a picture of it, they can load that on and it travels with that assignment, with that question. So the instructor can see not only if they got it right or wrong, but they can also see how they arrived at that answer. And maybe at that point, the student messed up a decimal point, right? And so it's like, oh, I don't want to be unfair and give them 0 points for it. So then the instructor can go back into the assignment in Sofia and change the grade as well. But they are auto graded based on the answers that the system is comparing to. And Heidi, so these are the courses that you're currently teaching, right? Spring 1, I think, is wrapping up.
Correct. Yeah, we're in spring 2 now. So these are the courses. So we started with the pre-calc, like I said, alternating the weeks, and then we moved it. I told Suzan, let's move it to algebra so we can get students used to it. So the nice thing is I've had the run of students who were in the algebra course when we piloted it, and then they moved to pre-calculus. So it was an easy transition because I was like, well, now you've already done this. So now you know how to get in there and get started with the work.
And then I looked in kind of our database and saw how many students were accessing Sofia and how many assignments, and just like the average per student's around 17 assignments. So I thought that was interesting too. I don't know if you guys had that information or not, but. And then potential other courses, because I know you guys are kind of rolling this out pilot and kind of, slowly at first. But we have basic math through Calc 2. So Calc 1's covered, college algebra is covered. We have statistics as well. So we can really support a pretty wide variety of basic math courses through college level and even a little bit beyond, especially with the higher level maths that maybe math majors and engineering type students would be taking. And then Suzan mentioned to me as well that not only for math courses, but even can be used as support for students in science courses as well. We do surveys all the time just to gauge the results of how students like Sofia. Is it helping them? I love the second one, the second bullet, more confidence and improved learning in math. Like that's what we're going for. We want to keep students engaged in their math class and give them more confidence, help alleviate that math anxiety that we were talking about. About a third, a little over a third of the students were using the just-in-time support aids. Show Me was the most popular. They wanted to see how to do it, but that helps, right? Then they choose another question, and then they do that next one on their own. And then the live help, a lot of students really just love that option to be able to chat with a tutor. And Suzan, this was some of the feedback that you elicited. I don't know, I think it was 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. You want to talk a little bit about this? I think this was during the pilot phase, right?
Correct. So when we first implemented Sofia at Ottawa, we surveyed our students in the pilot, and we asked them these questions because we wanted to, before we decided if we were going to continue on with Sofia or not, we wanted to get feedback from students. And as you can see, the overall feedback was pretty positive, which is why we continued to use Sofia. And the overall opinion when I left was that they were going to continue to implement Sofia and those other courses that we listed in that one slide. And so hopefully that is the plan, even though I'm not there. But I know my team, if they said that they're going to continue to implement Sofia, they'll continue to implement Sofia. It's a great program.
Thanks. And I know this was important to you all as well.
Yeah. This was actually part of our primary motivation. So, on my instructional design team, a big reason why we would revise courses would be because textbooks would go out of print, or there would be a new edition or something would come up where the textbook would drive the revision for the course. And we were getting really frustrated that we were having to revise the math courses over and over and over again. And it was causing a financial burden for the students. And so we said, okay, well, we're going to go OER, which is great, but then number one, the faculty doesn't have any of those additional supports that you normally would have in a packaged textbook. You know, you don't have the assessments and the quizzes, and you don't have the support, the tutoring support and all that stuff that you would normally have for students, like you would normally have in a packaged program. You lose that when you go OER. And if we continue with a book, whether it's a published book or an OER book, then we still have the problem of students are just writing their assignments down on paper, scanning them and sending them in. And the students have very little support when they're doing their homework. So we knew we needed a solution for all of that. And so that's where Sofia came in. Sofia is much less expensive than any textbook we'd ever used before. The $30 that you see there was a negotiated price that we had. That's, as Rich will tell you, that's not an across the board price. That was what our university negotiated. That might not be what your institution would pay, but that's what our institution paid per pupil. And our students paid that. So like we didn't pay that, our students are paying that. And then of course, students aren't paying for the OER book, so they're just paying for Sofia, and they're getting all of the benefits of Sofia, and the instructors are getting to see all of the benefits of Sofia. They're getting to see how the students are thinking. They're getting to see the challenges that the students are having. They're getting to help work with students through their challenges that just wouldn't happen with just a textbook by itself. And those are all things that we were hoping for and we found in Sofia.
Yeah, and I think our standard pricing is $20 per student for a semester of access. If you, for some reason, wanted a year, maybe it's, you know, 2 parts to the class, that would be $30. But I think with Ottawa, we sold this through the bookstore, right? So we technically sold it to them for 20, and they have a little administrative markup on it. So it just depends on the school, but there's options to for us to work with the bookstore. Students can purchase it on their own in the platform and using their credit card. And then sometimes we work directly with the schools if they have a budget for things like this in the department, and they can afford to give it to students for free or included with course fees and things like that. But that we're a few minutes over now, and I know we got a few minutes late start, but and I thank you so much, Susan, for answering those questions. I just took a look in the chat because I saw there were some questions in there, and I appreciate you answering those. If anybody has any other questions, just reach out to any one of us. And I thank you so much. Unless anybody has any additional questions that they just thought of, I think we're good to go. All right. I will stop recording, Christina, and